For that crucial date, the one I felt could change everything, I splurged my entire month's living allowance on a single dress. A delicate, floral tea dress that whispered understated elegance. And it worked. The moment Ethan Su saw me, his eyes lit up, a flicker of genuine appreciation crossing his handsome features. Seeing him take the bait, the knot of anxiety that had been tightening in my chest finally loosened. I had no idea that in that very moment, the person stepping into the trap wasn't him. It was me. Just a few months prior, I had arrived in Shanghai, a wide-eyed freshman ready to start university, carrying the weight of my family's expectations and my own secret ambitions. Sarah Sue immediately caught my attention, not just for her effortless style, but because on the very first day she casually purchased an apartment right next to campus. A chic duplex valued at over 5 million yuan. It was an amount so staggering it felt unreal. I watched her closely in the following days. Her clothes, her handbags, Chanel, Dior, Hermes, were all top-tier luxury brands, rotated daily. She wasn't just playing rich. Sarah Sue was the real deal, an heiress swimming in generational wealth. And the circle she moved in, particularly the men within it, became my focus. They were my target demographic. My first step was clear. I needed to get close to Sarah. Opportunity arrived during the mandatory military training, a grueling initiation common for university students in China. Sarah, unaccustomed to physical hardship, complained constantly about the exhaustion and the relentless sun. Seeing her wilting under the strain gave me an idea. That evening, I approached her, striking up a conversation with feigned shared misery. This training is brutal, isn't it? So tiring, and the sun is just merciless. Sarah latched onto me like a lifeline, pouring out her woes. Seizing the moment, I suggested conspiratorially, "We should try to get leave, take a break from this." She shook her head, her face crestfallen. "No way. I already tried. The instructor is like a brick wall. Said no leave without a legitimate reason. What about, girl problems? Your period?" I probed gently. She sighed again. "Tried that too. He didn't buy it. Shot down instantly." "Okay." I leaned in closer. "What if one of us got injured?" Sarah recoiled slightly, startled. "Injured? No way, Sophie. Faking an injury just to skip training? That's too much, not worth it." I gave her a sly wink, whispering my plan in her ear. Her eyes widened, her jaw dropping slightly. "Are you serious? You'd really do that?" she asked, hesitant but intrigued. I nodded firmly, putting on my most self-sacrificing expression. One for all and all for one, right? A small sacrifice from me saves us both. Totally worth it. The look in Sarah's eyes shifted instantly, warming with newfound camaraderie and admiration. The next morning, shortly after the drills began, I let out a small cry and dramatically crumpled backward. The instructor, startled, rushed over. "What's wrong? What happened?" Biting my lower lip to feign pain, I carefully rolled up my pant leg, revealing my right ankle, already swollen to the size of a large dumpling thanks to a tightly wrapped bandage and some strategic positioning I'd practiced the night before. The instructor immediately told me to head back to the dorm and rest. But I made a show of trying to stand, collapsing back weakly. I can't even stand up," I whimpered. He offered to have one of the male students carry me back. Flushing beet red, I waved my hands frantically in refusal. No, that's too embarrassing." Exasperated, he asked what I wanted to do. With calculated shyness, I pointed towards Sarah, who was hovering nearby looking concerned. Could she possibly help me back? Please." Sarah readily agreed, playing her part perfectly with a worried frown. Once we were back in the dorm room, our floor counselor soon arrived, having heard about the incident. He took one look at my impressively swollen ankle, and promptly wrote me a medical leave slip for the remainder of the training period. Sarah frowned slightly, looking pointedly at the leave slip which only had my name, Sophie Wong, on it. Understanding her silent plea, I made a pained effort to get out of bed. As my foot touched the floor, I lost my balance again, stumbling dramatically. The counselor rushed to steady me. "What are you trying to do?" Head bowed, I mumbled sheepishly. I need to use the restroom." He considered the situation. "You clearly can't manage on your own like this. Sarah," he turned to her, "would you be willing to stay and help look after Sophie?" Sarah nodded vigorously like a bobblehead doll. "Of course. Taking care of classmates is what we should do." And just like that, thanks to my sprained ankle, Sarah and I spent the next 2 weeks bonding in the dorm room, skipping the rest of the dreaded military training. Our friendship blossomed quickly under the guise of shared convalescence. That ankle twist was worth every bit of faked agony. Once classes officially began, Sarah invited me to her apartment. The duplex was even more stunning up close. Floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the exquisitely decorated space in bright, natural light. It was quite literally my dream house. But it was her walk-in closet that truly took my breath away. It was enormous, meticulously organized. Jewelry, belts, handbags, coats, each category had its designated space. Racks overflowed with Chanel jackets. Shelves gleamed with Hermes Birkins and Kellys. Drawers spilled silk scarves and designer accessories. It was a treasure trove of luxury, a tangible representation of the life I craved. Seeing it solidified my resolve. From then on, I became Sarah's shadow, her constant companion, her most attentive friend. My own background couldn't have been more different. My parents were factory workers, our lives dictated by tight budgets and scrimping. Growing up, my wardrobe consisted mainly of my older cousins' hand-me-downs. The refrain of my childhood was constant. "We're poor, Sophie. Your mom and dad don't have connections or wealth. You have to rely on yourself for everything." So from a young age, a singular dream took root. Marry rich. Live a life where money was no object. And Ethan Sue, Sarah's brother, became the embodiment of that dream. I met him one weekend visiting Sarah's apartment as usual. The front door suddenly opened, and a man walked in as if he owned the place, which, perhaps, he partly did. He looked to be around 30, with a strong, high-bridged nose, an air of effortless superiority, and a perfectly tailored suit that I instantly recognized as Hermes. Expensive. Who is this? My mind raced. Sarah's boyfriend? She was already incredibly wealthy. It figured her boyfriend would be too. A bitter wave of jealousy washed over me. Still, I thought quickly, even if he's her boyfriend, it doesn't matter unless they're married. Instantly, I straightened my posture, smoothed my expression into my most charming smile, and asked in a soft, gentle voice, "May I help you? Are you looking for someone?" The man frowned slightly, his gaze sharp. "And who are you?" he countered coolly. Before I could reply, Sarah bounced out of the bathroom, her face lighting up when she saw him. "Ethan, you're here," she chirped happily. "Let me introduce you. This is Sophie Wong, my good friend." Turning to me, she added, "Sophie, this is my older brother, Ethan Sue." Sarah's brother. Relief mingled with excitement. I quickly plastered on a sweet smile and chirped, "Hello, Ethan," addressing him familiarly, as if he were my own older brother. Ethan possessed a pair of striking, almond-shaped eyes often called peach blossom eyes, known for their allure. He looked me over, a teasing glint in his gaze. "Well, Sarah," he chuckled, referencing an old Chinese story. "Since when did you start hiding beautiful treasures in your golden house like Emperor Wu?" His comment, comparing me to a legendary beauty hidden away, sent a thrill through me. He noticed. He appreciates my looks. It felt like a very promising sign. Ethan invited Sarah and me out for dinner that evening. Over the meal, through careful, indirect questions, I learned that the Sue family owned a large conglomerate, frequently handling lucrative government contracts. They weren't just rich, they had influence, power. Ethan was the company's general manager, and often traveled to Shanghai for business. This trip was one such occasion, combined with a visit to check on his younger sister. After Ethan left later that evening, I casually asked Sarah, "Sarah, your brother travels so much for work. Doesn't your sister-in-law mind?" Sarah laughed. "Sister-in-law? My brother doesn't even have a girlfriend. Where would I get a sister-in-law from?" Relief flooded through me. While my goal was marrying wealth, I had one firm principle. Married men were absolutely off-limits. My beloved aunt, who had always doted on me, had suffered a complete mental breakdown after her husband left her for another woman. Seeing her transform from a vibrant, beautiful person into someone lost and unable to care for herself had left a deep scar. I refused to inflict that kind of pain on anyone. Destroying a family was a line I wouldn't cross. Confirming Ethan was single solidified my plan. Now the question was how to establish contact, to bridge the gap between sister's friend and potential girlfriend. Looking at Sarah, completely engrossed in her phone game, I knew she was the key. I excused myself to the bathroom. Standing before the mirror, I took a deep breath and began vigorously rubbing my cheeks, holding my breath until my face flushed a convincing shade of red. Returning to the living room, I approached Sarah, feigning a casual air laced with nervous tension. "Hey Sarah, what kind of girls does your brother usually like?" She glanced up, a knowing smirk spreading across her face. "Sophie Wong, don't tell me you've got a crush on my brother?" Playing my part, I feigned embarrassment, stammering denials. "What? No, how could you say that? Of course not." Sarah laughed louder. "Oh, stop pretending. Look at your face. It's as red as a tomato." Acting flustered and slightly annoyed, I lightly tapped her arm. "Hey, stop teasing. I really don't." "Methinks the lady doth protest too much," Sarah quipped, playfully dodging away. It wasn't long before a WeChat friend request notification popped up on my phone. "Hello, I'm Ethan Su." My chosen accomplice hadn't disappointed me. I let the request sit for a moment before tapping accept. Almost immediately, his first message arrived. "Hello Sophie. Would you be free for lunch tomorrow?" To maintain the image of not being overly eager or easy, I deliberately waited a good 10 minutes before replying with a simple, "Okay." For that first official lunch date, I wore the tea dress I'd sacrificed my budget for. It was expensive, yes, but undeniably effective. Ethan's eyes barely left me throughout the meal. As the date drew to a close, he leaned forward slightly, his expression earnest. "Sophie," he said, his voice smooth and low, "I've met all sorts of people in my life. Many approach me with hidden agendas. That's why I value simple, genuine connections so much more." His words made me momentarily tense. What does he mean? Did he see through me? Does he suspect my motives? He offered a gentle smile, seemingly sensing my unease. "You're very pure, Sophie. You might not fully understand what I mean right now. That's okay. Just stay the way you are. It's perfect." That part one understood. He liked the simple, pure version of me I presented. I breathed an inward sigh of relief. The best response now was silence, coupled with a shy lowering of my gaze. It perfectly conveyed the innocent charm he seemed to appreciate. As expected, Ethan smiled, looking satisfied. That lunch solidified my determination. Ethan Su was the one. He was cultured, wealthy, and clearly attracted to me. He seemed to appreciate me for who I was or who I pretended to be, and he just happened to be rich. Could anything be more perfect? As he dropped me off near my dorm, Ethan handed me a sleek, black laptop bag. "Sarah mentioned you were thinking of getting a new computer," he said casually. "I picked one out for you." I hesitated, not taking it immediately. He pressed it into my hands. "Take it. You girls don't always know the best specs, so I chose one I thought would suit you." "It's too expensive, Ethan," I demurred. "I can't accept this." I was playing the long game. I couldn't afford to look like someone easily bought or greedy. His large hand gently covered mine for a brief moment. "Please accept it." His touch lingered for just a second before withdrawing, the gesture smooth, natural, devoid of any overt sleaziness. That perfectly calibrated intimacy charmed me. Back in my dorm, I looked up the laptop model. My jaw dropped. The slim, elegant machine cost over 20,000 yuan. I couldn't help but contrast it with the boys in my classes who saved for half a year to buy a 7 or 8,000 yuan gaming laptop, bragging about it endlessly. Ethan dropped more than twice that amount on a casual gift. Money really did make a difference. How could those immature college boys possibly compare? The laptop further cemented my resolve. Ethan Su was my future. One thing I noticed during this period was that Ethan seemed to have two phones. He used one number exclusively to contact me, and another for everyone else. When I cautiously asked him about it, he explained smoothly that he received too many business calls on his main line and worried about missing my messages. So he'd gotten a separate private number just for us. He even showed me the phone, pointing out a little sticker with my name, Sophie, affixed to the back. His explanation seemed thoughtful, considerate. I accepted it without question, never suspecting the calculated deception behind it. The following weekend, I went to Sarah's apartment as usual, anticipating Ethan might be there. I chose my outfit carefully. Tight-fitting t-shirt, shorts that highlighted my long legs and slim waist. Sure enough, Ethan greeted me at the door, beaming. He had prepared a romantic lunch. Flowers adorned the table, wine chilled in a bucket, steak sizzled under his expert hand. Sitting there, surrounded by roses, sipping wine, I felt a giddy happiness bubble up inside me. When a man was willing to spend both money and effort on you, Felt incredibly good. If my initial feelings towards Ethan were primarily calculation, today something else stirred. A genuine flicker of attraction, of being truly wooed. After lunch, Ethan put on a movie. As we sat on the plush sofa, his arm casually draped around my shoulders, gradually pulling me closer. My mind drifted, preoccupied with fantasies of our future. I barely registered him speaking to me. He gently stroked my hair, then suddenly leaned in and kissed me. Instinctively, I turned my head away slightly. Not too fast. Men don't value what comes too easily. Ethan, I whispered, feigning shyness, this feels a little fast. I'm scared of getting hurt, of starting something that won't last. He touched my cheek tenderly, his voice reassuring. Silly girl. I'm serious about you. You don't need to worry. He then stood up and retrieved several shopping bags, presenting their contents one by one. A designer handbag, elegant clothes, stylish shoes. Look, he said proudly. I picked these out especially for you. The expensive gifts were undeniably tempting, my heart doing a little leap. But I knew I couldn't accept them. Not yet. Accepting them now would shift the power dynamic, make me seem like I could be bought. Unequal relationships don't last. I wanted marriage, not a fleeting affair. I couldn't afford to seem greedy. When I politely refused, Ethan's tone cooled noticeably. If you don't accept them, I'll feel like you're not ready to truly accept me. His words were a clear signal. I wanted to keep him interested, not push him away entirely. It was time to yield gracefully. Okay, I relented softly. Then I'll accept them. That evening, Ethan had a business dinner to attend. I offered to stay at Sarah's apartment and wait for him to return. Sometime after midnight, the apartment door opened. A tall figure stumbled in. I startled, ready to call out, but then I recognized Ethan, smelling strongly of alcohol. He lurched towards the guest room where I was staying, collapsed onto the bed beside me, and immediately started kissing me hungrily, his hands roaming urgently over my body. His weight pressed down on me. I tried to push him away, but the drunken Ethan was surprisingly strong. I couldn't break free. I struggled calling his name, but he seemed lost in his intoxicated state, murmuring my name. Sophie, Sophie, over and over. Desperate, I yelled for Sarah. She rushed in quickly, flicking on the lights. Ethan's eyes were closed, his face flushed red. Together, Sarah and I managed to half-carry, half-drag the heavily intoxicated Ethan to the other guest room across the hall. Looking at her brother passed out on the bed, Sarah stuck out her tongue playfully and whispered conspiratorially. My brother has this weird habit. When he gets really drunk, he starts calling for Mom. He's always been closest to her. Her words sent a jolt of unexpected excitement through me. Ethan hadn't been calling for his mother. He'd been calling my name. Repeatedly. Did that mean, in his subconscious mind, I held a place as important as his mother? It felt like another step closer to the secure, luxurious life I dreamed of. The next morning, Ethan emerged rubbing his temples, looking sheepish. Sophie, I'm so sorry about last night. He apologized, offering a rueful smile. I was completely out of line. I hope I didn't frighten you. My heart softened. I reached out, gently touching his cheek. You need to take care of yourself, Ethan. Drink less in the future. He immediately caught my hand, bringing it to his lips for a soft kiss. I've always wanted a wife who would care about me like this, he murmured, his eyes warm. Looks like I've already found her. The word wife sent my heart soaring. When he left later that day, I initiated the farewell kiss. I never imagined that after that display of affection, 2 whole weeks would pass without a word from him. No calls, no messages. It was deeply unsettling, throwing cold water on my plans to solidify our relationship while things seemed to be heating up. Finally, after another agonizing weekend, Ethan reappeared. But his visit was brief. He could only stay for the afternoon before needing to return to Ningbo for work. I curled up against him on the sofa, employing my softest, most pleading tones to express how much I missed him, how sad I was that he had to leave so soon. His large hand gently stroked my back. Be good, he murmured soothingly. You know I'll come see you whenever I can. His voice thickened slightly. You're making it very hard for me to leave. I tightened my arms around his waist, burying my face against his chest. Then don't go, I whispered poutily. Please. Perhaps my manufactured vulnerability touched him. His breathing quickened and he leaned down, kissing me with renewed fervor. This time, wanting to keep him there, I didn't pull away. As the kiss deepened, my head started to spin. His hands moved over my body with confident familiarity, exploring without restraint. I pushed back weakly a few times, but he was insistent, overpowering my token resistance. Finally, summoning my remaining strength, I pushed him away more firmly, reminding him breathlessly that I wasn't that kind of girl. Ethan looked flushed, his eyes clouded with desire. He whispered urgently in my ear, "Sophie, I love you so much. Let me have you, please. I don't want anyone else, only you. I'll take responsibility, I promise." Anyone else? That phrase snagged in my mind, sending a prickle of unease through me. Ethan was wealthy, successful, handsome, a prime catch. How many other women were vying for his attention? If I didn't satisfy him, would he simply turn to someone else who would? Sensing my hesitation, Ethan intensified his kisses, his touch becoming more demanding. I felt myself melting under his assault, my protests dissolving into muffled sounds. My body eventually relaxed, yielding to his persistence. After that, Ethan became a regular fixture, visiting me every weekend, no matter how busy he claimed to be. Our dates, however, mostly consisted of time spent in bed. I didn't mind too much. His apparent eagerness to be physical every time he saw me surely meant he was genuinely passionate about me, deeply infatuated, right? He often spoke about wanting me to have his baby, a cute little child for us to raise together. I never contradicted him directly, just smiled non-committally while secretly continuing to take birth control pills. Getting pregnant now would put me at a disadvantage, shifting all the power to him. I needed a more secure commitment before considering that step. Then one day a chilling realization hit me. My period was late. 2 weeks late. With trembling hands, I bought a pregnancy test and took it in the privacy of the bathroom. 2 faint pink lines appeared. My mind went numb. How? I took my pills religiously. How could I be pregnant? Tears streaming down my face, I called Ethan. His reaction was immediate, overjoyed. "That's wonderful news. I'm coming right over," he exclaimed. I assumed right over meant later that afternoon, maybe evening. To my astonishment, he was waiting outside the university gates less than half an hour later. Stunned, I stared at him. He explained he'd been in Shanghai unexpectedly for a client meeting. He'd planned to surprise me afterward, but my news was an even bigger surprise. He ditched the client mid-meeting and rushed straight to me. The details barely registered. All I could focus on was the fear churning inside me. "Ethan, I'm still young," I sobbed. "I'm scared. I don't know what to do." As I spoke, I watched his face intently, trying to gauge his true reaction, uncertain if he genuinely wanted this child, if marriage was truly on his mind. His response, however, was deeply reassuring. He held me close, swearing solemnly, "Sophie, I promise you I will take good care of you, and I will take good care of our baby." "But I'm only a freshman," I stammered, voicing my practical concerns. "My parents, they would never agree to me getting married now." "We can manage that," he said calmly, already formulating a plan. "You can take a leave of absence from university for now. After the baby is born, you can resume your studies. We'll wait until after you graduate to have the official wedding ceremony." "Taking leave requires parental consent," I pointed out nervously. "If my parents find out I'm pregnant, they'll kill me." "Don't worry about that," he waved away my fears. "I'll handle everything. They won't find out." What if your family doesn't approve of us getting married?" I pressed, needing more assurance. "Trust me, Sophie. Leave everything to me. Once you're further along, when the pregnancy is stable, I'll take you home to meet my parents." His confident pronouncements, his detailed plans, finally calmed my racing heart. That very day, Ethan insisted I move into Sarah's apartment full-time. He even hired a dedicated housekeeper/nanny to look after my meals and daily needs. That night, settling into the luxurious guest room, my mind buzzed with visions of my bright, secure future. Too excited to sleep, I decided to go talk to Ethan, who was staying in the guest room opposite mine. Tiptoeing down the hallway, careful not to wake Sarah, I approached his door. As I neared, I heard him talking softly on the phone. His tone was incredibly gentle as he addressed someone as "sweetheart." My heart gave a painful lurch. "Sweetheart?" Pressing my ear against the door, I strained to hear more. The next sentence hit me like a physical blow. "Okay, sweetheart, whatever my darling son says, Daddy will listen. Daddy will come see you tomorrow." Darling son? The world tilted. Darkness swam at the edge of my vision, and I nearly collapsed. Ethan is married? He has a son? Then what am I? The other woman? A mistress? Fury and betrayal surged through me. I shoved the door open and stormed into the room. Ethan looked startled, quickly ending the call. Pointing a trembling finger at him, my voice shaking with anger and confusion, I demanded, You're married? Why? Why did you pursue me? Ethan remained calm, stepping towards me, hands outstretched. Sophie, please let me explain. Don't come near me. I yelled, backing away frantically. Explain. What's this about your son? Seeing my agitation, my frantic stomping, Ethan suddenly looked alarmed. Sophie, calm down. Don't get so worked up. Remember the baby. His concern for the baby felt like another layer of betrayal. He's married, and he still wants me to carry his child? I felt utterly lost, devastated. Just then, Sarah appeared in the doorway behind me. Her voice was quiet, almost melancholic. Ethan, she sighed, maybe you should just tell Sophie the truth. She's a reasonable, understanding girl. I whipped around, staring at Sarah in confusion. What truth? What are you talking about? Sarah explained, her tone somber. Ethan had a girlfriend during university. They got married right after graduation because she was pregnant. But the marriage didn't last. They separated a few years ago. Their son Leo lives with Ethan. Ethan had kept it secret, she claimed, because he was afraid I wouldn't be able to accept the child, afraid of losing me. Sophie, please don't blame my brother, Sarah pleaded. He kept it from you because he loves you so much. He was terrified you'd reject him if you knew. And Leo, she continued, her voice softening. Oh, he's the sweetest little boy, so well behaved. But his situation isn't good right now. What do you mean, not good? I asked, dread coiling in my stomach. Sarah sighed again. Leo has leukemia. He's currently undergoing treatment at the Shanghai Children's Hospital. The news stunned me. Leukemia. My first instinctive question was, have they found a suitable bone marrow match for him? Ethan's brow furrowed deeply. He shook his head wordlessly. A sudden sickening thought struck me. Ethan's eagerness for our baby. Could it be? Was he hoping my child could be a donor? I took an involuntary step back, my eyes locking onto Ethan's, suspicion hardening my gaze. Ethan saw the wariness in my expression. A bitter smile touched his lips. Sophie, I know what you're thinking. That I pursued you just to have a baby to be a donor for Leo. Let me tell you, he continued, his voice weary. The success rate for a match between half-siblings is less than 25%. If my only goal was finding a donor, it would make far more sense for me to go back to his biological mother and have another child with her. Full siblings have the highest chance of being a match. He sank onto the sofa, looking utterly dejected. Believe me or not, Sophie, he finished quietly, my feelings for you are real. After absorbing the shock, I told Ethan I wanted to visit Leo the next day. He hesitated, clearly surprised by my request. I assured him I just needed to see for myself to confirm their story. He agreed, but asked me to visit under the guise of being Sarah's classmate, explaining that they hadn't told young Leo about the divorce yet. I consented. Leo Su was 6 years old, with delicate features that strongly resembled his father's. His pale complexion and thin frame spoke volumes of his illness. Seeing Ethan, the little boy's face lit up, and he threw his arms around his father's neck, crying, Daddy. Then, his hopeful eyes searched behind Ethan. Where's Mommy? Didn't she come? Ethan instinctively glanced at me before replying softly to his son. Mommy had something important to do, Leo. She'll come see you next time. The boy's face fell with disappointment, but he nodded bravely. A pang of unexpected sadness went through me. It seems his mother doesn't visit often, I thought. Sarah must have been telling the truth about the separation. Forcing a smile, I extended my hand to the boy. Hello, Leo, I'm Sophie. He looked at me quizzically. Sarah quickly interjected. Leo, this is Auntie Sophie. She's my classmate, and she came especially to see you. Leo's smile returned instantly. Hello, sister, he chirped. Sarah gently corrected him, telling him to call me Auntie. Leo stuck out his tongue playfully. Pretty ladies are sisters, not aunties. His innocent charm made me laugh. We spent some time chatting. Leo was bright and engaging, eagerly sharing his toys and fruit with me. Despite the circumstances, I found myself genuinely liking him. Leaving the hospital room later, I asked Ethan, "Is it true that even half-siblings can sometimes be a match?" His voice was heavy. "Yes, it happens. But the probability is low." Biting my lip, I asked the question I dreaded. If a suitable match isn't found, what happens?" Ethan's face tightened, pain flashing in his eyes. He shook his head again, unable to voice the grim prognosis. A wave of empathy washed over me. Without fully thinking it through, the words tumbled out. "I've decided. I'm going to have this baby. At least it gives Leo another chance, another hope." Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with raw gratitude. "Sophie," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." Truthfully, I had hesitated. For a fleeting, ugly moment, a dark thought had crossed my mind. If something happened to Leo, my child would be the Sue family's sole heir. The thought made me recoil, ashamed of my own capacity for callousness. I acknowledged my flaws, my greed, my vanity, my willingness to manipulate, but I drew the line at becoming truly monstrous, devoid of basic human decency. Perhaps years later I would regret this emotional decision, but in that moment, the possibility of saving a young life filled me with a profound, unexpected sense of purpose. I settled into life at Sarah's apartment, focusing on my pregnancy. Ethan, true to his word, was incredibly busy and rarely had time to visit or accompany me to appointments. Usually, the nanny went with me. But financially, he was exceptionally generous. He gave me a 50,000 yuan monthly allowance and a credit card with no spending limit. Finally, like Sarah, I could indulge in shopping sprees without a second thought. One afternoon, after a prenatal checkup, the nanny accompanying me received an urgent call about a family emergency and had to leave abruptly. Left on my own, I found myself wandering into a toy store. Thoughts of Leo surfaced, how lonely he must be, with his father so busy and his mother seemingly absent, relying mostly on hired caregivers. I picked out a large Lego set for him, deciding to drop by the hospital. As I approached the hospital entrance, I spotted Ethan's familiar car parked nearby. "He's in Shanghai? Why didn't he tell me?" Puzzled, I noticed someone else in the car with him. A moment later, they both got out. It was a woman, young, petite, and rather small-boned. She naturally linked her arm through Ethan's as they started walking towards the hospital entrance together. A strange unease prickled my skin, cold sweat forming on my back. A heavy sense of foreboding washed over me, unlike anything I'd felt before. Something was terribly wrong. Compelled by this gut feeling, I decided to follow them, keeping a discreet distance. They headed towards Leo's ward on the 4th floor. To avoid running into them directly, I opted for the stairs instead of the elevator. As I reached the 4th floor landing, I heard the muffled sound of a woman crying softly. It was followed by a man's soothing voice. "Honey, please don't cry," the man murmured. "You get like this every time you visit. It makes me hesitant to bring you. I just worry so much about our son," the woman sobbed in reply. "Oh, darling, Leo will be okay, won't he?" Peeking around the corner, my blood ran cold. It was Ethan, holding the petite woman tightly in his arms. The woman I'd seen him arrive with. His wife. "He'll be fine, I promise. Don't worry," Ethan reassured her softly. "It's all my fault," she wept. "My health is so poor I can't get pregnant again. If I could, we could have had another baby, and Leo would have been cured by now." "Don't blame yourself," Ethan murmured, stroking her hair. "We already have a plan, remember? Everything is proceeding smoothly. We just need to be patient." The woman's voice was tinged with anxiety. "But Dr. Lee said yesterday, if they don't find a suitable match soon, Leo might." Ethan cut her off quickly. "Trust me. With so many potential donors, one of them is bound to be a match. Let's see. Li Feng is due next month. Then Lu Yan the month after. Oh, and Chen Fun is also due next month, I almost forgot. And good news, Sarah's classmate, that Sophie girl? She's pregnant too already. 2 months along. And I just recruited another one, Qian Hui, also a freshman. These young girls are healthy, clean, easy to get pregnant. Don't worry, sweetheart. One of them will be a match." "Ethan," the woman whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "if those girls find out the truth, won't they sue us?" Ethan's voice turned chillingly cold, devoid of its earlier warmth. "Sue us? On what grounds? We haven't broken any laws. They entered into relationships with me willingly, got pregnant willingly. It's not surrogacy, and I haven't publicly cohabited with any of them, so it's not bigamy. What could they possibly sue me for?" Honestly, if surrogacy weren't illegal here, I wouldn't have to waste my time tangling with these women. Darling, the only thing I worry about is that you might hold this against me later. Of course not, she protested immediately. I know you're doing all this for our son. Yes, Ethan affirmed grimly. Everything is for Leo. The odds of a match with a half-sibling are too low. I couldn't risk pinning all our hopes on just one. So I had to diversify. More potential donors mean more hope. I believe our Leo will get better. Their conversation felt like being plunged into icy water. A sharp, cramping pain seized my abdomen. My head spun, ears ringing, vision darkening at the edges. I wanted to scream, but the shock and fury rendered me mute. My legs gave out, and I crumpled onto the cold stairwell landing, the world buzzing around me. I was just one of Ethan's selected broodmares? He pursued me solely to produce a potential bone marrow donor for his sick son? And I wasn't even the only one? Just one of many? I thought I was being so clever, so strategic, meticulously planning my seduction of Ethan Sue. All along, I was the one being manipulated, the pawn in his monstrous game. A wave of despair washed over me, so profound it felt like drowning. Somehow, I dragged myself back to Sarah's apartment, functioning on autopilot. She immediately noticed my deathly pale complexion and asked, what was wrong? Seeing her face, knowing she was complicit in this horrific deception, filled me with a burning desire to confront her, to scream at her for betraying me. But a sliver of self-preservation held me back. I couldn't reveal what I knew. Not yet. If they realized I was aware of their scheme, they might resort to desperate measures, imprisoning me, silencing me. I would truly have no escape then. Just tired from shopping, I managed to mumble, forcing a weak smile. Sarah seemed to accept the explanation, urging me to rest. Alone in my room, another sickening realization hit me. I retrieved the birth control pills I thought I'd been taking diligently. Pouring them out, I examined them closely under the light. Several pills, while looking similar at first glance, had subtle differences in color and texture upon closer inspection. My pills had been swapped. My pregnancy wasn't an accident. It was the calculated result of Ethan's meticulous planning. The cold dread intensified, wrapping around me like a shroud. Every interaction, every gift, every seemingly tender moment with Ethan replayed in my mind, now tainted by the knowledge of his chilling deception. Lying on the bed, I forced myself to calm down, to think clearly. What could I do? The baby, this symbol of his betrayal, had to go. That much was certain. But how? Ethan clearly wanted this child, regardless of the cost to me. His family was powerful, influential. If I simply tried to get an abortion, what would they do? How would they retaliate? If I didn't expose them, would he continue to control me, perhaps force me into future pregnancies? If I did expose them, how would they react? Would they destroy my academic future, my life? I was only 20. Yes, I'd had my own naive schemes, but this level of complex, ruthless manipulation left me feeling utterly overwhelmed, helpless, and terrifyingly alone. Clutching a pillow, silent tears streamed down my face. My only instinct was to reach out to my parents. Waiting until the nanny was occupied, I found a moment alone and called my mother. The phone rang for a long time before someone picked up. It wasn't my mom. It was my aunt. Surprised, I asked where my mother was. My aunt hesitated, evasive at first, but under my persistent questioning, she finally revealed the truth. My father had been injured in a workplace accident a few days ago. He was undergoing surgery today. My mother was with the doctors discussing the procedure. The news hit me like another blow. I burst into tears, asking why they hadn't told me sooner. Your parents didn't want you to worry, my aunt explained gently. They specifically asked me not to tell you. My own troubles suddenly felt insignificant compared to theirs. I swallowed down my fear and despair. My parents needed support, financial and emotional. Wiping my eyes, I immediately transferred the 100,000 yuan Ethan had given me as allowance to my aunt, asking her to lend it to my parents in her name. Giving them such a large sum directly would only raise suspicion and questions I wasn't ready to answer. Then, putting on a brave face, I called Ethan, telling him about my father's accident and asking if I could go home for a visit. My real intention, of course, wasn't to burden my parents, but to use the opportunity to travel to another city and discreetly terminate the pregnancy. But Ethan refused point-blank, no matter how much I pleaded or reasoned. You're pregnant, Sophie, he stated firmly. Going back now won't help. The best thing you can do is stay here and take care of yourself and the baby." My escape plan thwarted. I felt a rising sense of panic. Worse, my desperation must have somehow tipped him off. I had inadvertently revealed my hand. The subtle shift in control became terrifyingly apparent. Later, when I tried to sneak out late at night thinking everyone was asleep, the nanny, who I now realized was sleeping on a mat outside my door, instantly intercepted me. "Mr. Su said you need your rest, Miss Wang. You shouldn't be wandering around, especially now." Even during the day, attempting to leave under the guise of taking a walk was futile. The moment I reached for my shoes, the nanny would materialize beside me, her bag already packed, ready to accompany me. I was effectively under house arrest. The realization choked me. Panic clawed at my throat, making my voice hoarse. Seeing my distress, the nanny asked solicitously if I needed to see a doctor for my throat. Her question sparked an idea. The swapped pills. If I couldn't escape to get an abortion, maybe I could make them decide the baby wasn't viable. That night, I deliberately turned the air conditioning down low and slept without covers. As planned, I woke up the next day with a fever and chills. The nanny was frantic, wanting to call Ethan immediately. I stopped her, insisting it was just a minor cold and I didn't want to bother him. "I'll just get some medicine myself," I said weakly. The nanny rightly hesitated, reminding me that pregnant women shouldn't take medication casually. Pretending to agree, I suggested vitamins instead. "They say extra vitamins help you get over colds faster," I offered innocently. I asked her to run downstairs to the pharmacy and pick some up for me. She agreed. But as she left the apartment, I heard the distinct click of the door being locked from the outside. Fury surged, but I suppressed it. Escaping wasn't the primary goal right now anyway. While she was gone, I quickly used the apartment's tablet, my phone was still confiscated, to place an online delivery order via Ami, a popular food delivery app. Ordered a large assortment of items: face masks, cotton pads, bandages, bearing a request for a specific antibiotic, gentamicin, within the seemingly innocuous list. The nanny returned just as the delivery driver arrived. I intercepted the driver at the door, taking the bags before the nanny could inspect them too closely. She peered curiously at the contents. "Just some daily necessities," I said airily, quickly showing her the masks and cotton pads before whisking the bags into my room. Mimicking the appearance of the swapped pills, I carefully crushed the gentamicin tablets and mixed small doses into my vitamin capsules over the next 2 days. Once my cold subsided, I requested a prenatal checkup. During the appointment, I casually mentioned to the doctor that I'd taken gentamicin a few days prior for a severe sore throat. The doctor's expression immediately turned grave. She explained sternly that gentamicin carried a significant risk of causing fetal abnormalities and hearing loss. She strongly advised me to discuss the implications and options with my family immediately. Playing my part, I feigned shock and devastation. I called Ethan right there in the clinic, sobbing hysterically, relaying the doctor's dire warning that the baby might not be viable. Ethan arrived at the hospital with alarming speed. He spoke briefly and tensely with the doctor, then stepped away to make a series of phone calls, his back turned to me. When he returned, his expression had cleared considerably, replaced by a reassuring calm. He put an arm around my shoulders. "I spoke to some top specialists," he said smoothly. "It's likely not a major issue. Don't worry yourself sick. Just go home and rest." His casual dismissal, his blatant disregard for the potential risks to the child, it extinguished the last flicker of hope I might have harbored that he felt anything for me, or even for the baby beyond its potential utility. He didn't care if the child was born with defects, as long as it could potentially provide marrow for Leo. Deformities wouldn't affect a bone marrow match after all. I was nothing but a vessel, the baby nothing but a tool. Ethan didn't explicitly ask how I'd obtained the gentamicin, but the consequences were immediate and chilling. He fired the current nanny that same day, replacing her with a stern-faced, powerfully built woman who rarely spoke and shadowed my every move. He also confiscated my phone and ID card permanently. The excuse for the phone was radiation concerns for the fetus. The ID, he claimed, was needed for some school administrative procedures he was handling for me. When I protested, his facade of the caring lover vanished completely. His face hardened and he took them by force. He even installed security cameras throughout the apartment. Every room except the bathroom was under surveillance. The new nanny became my constant warden. She slept fully clothed on a mat on the floor in my room. She stood directly outside the door whenever I used the restroom. No matter how much I raged or pleaded, her response was always the same monotonous refrain. "Mr. Su is concerned for your safety, Miss Wang. He instructed me to stay with you at all times." I was Ethan Su's prisoner. Fear threatened to paralyze me, but I knew I had to find a way out. I couldn't give up. I forced myself to eat regularly, conserving my strength, observing my surroundings, waiting, praying for an opportunity. One day, the fish soup the nanny prepared triggered a violent wave of nausea. As I watched her stoically cleaning up my vomit from the floor, a desperate plan began to form. That day, at lunch and dinner, I forced myself to throw up everything I ate. By evening, I was genuinely pale, weak, and trembling. The nanny, thoroughly alarmed, called Ethan again, reporting my severe vomiting. I overheard him instructing her, his voice sharp with impatience, to ensure I ate, no matter what it took. The nanny timidly asked what I might feel like eating. Knowing she only cooked Chinese food, I deliberately requested pizza and roasted chicken wings. As expected, she looked flustered, admitting she didn't know how to make them. "Then let's go out to eat," I suggested weakly. She immediately refused, shaking her head. "Mr. Su said you're not allowed to leave the apartment." Feigning resignation, I sighed. "Okay, then just order delivery for me." She hesitated, then called Ethan again to report my request. After getting his permission, she used the tablet to place the order. When she got to the pizza section, I weakly requested multiple different types, claiming I wanted to try various toppings to see what I could keep down. I also added 2 extra orders of creamy corn soup. The delivery driver arrived shortly after, his hands overflowing with 2 large pizza boxes and several smaller containers. The items were so numerous that he even had the 2 soup containers dangling precariously from his little finger. Seeing the nanny struggling to take everything, I quickly offered, "Let me get the soup." As the driver handed the soup containers to me, our fingers brushed. In that split second, I pressed a small, tightly folded piece of paper into his palm. His eyes widened slightly in surprise, but I met his gaze with a silent, desperate plea. He didn't say a word, nodded almost imperceptibly, and left quickly. Back on the sofa, I forced myself to eat the pizza and drink the soup, calmly this time, keeping everything down, regaining my strength. An hour later, there was a firm knock on the door. The nanny opened it, her face paling instantly. Standing outside were 2 police officers, and behind them the delivery driver. Yes, while pretending to use the restroom earlier, I had scribbled a desperate message on a scrap of paper. "Help me. I'm being held against my will. Please call the police. Thank you, kind person." Despite the nanny's frantic protests and attempts to call Ethan, I, now fueled by pizza and renewed hope, summoned all my strength. I rushed past her, grabbing onto one of the police officer's arms, shouting that I was being illegally detained. Ultimately, both the nanny and I were escorted to the police station. Ethan arrived shortly after being summoned, accompanied by a lawyer. He vehemently denied imprisoning me, claiming the nanny had simply misunderstood his instructions and acted overzealously in restricting my movements out of misguided concern. However, the nanny, clearly terrified by the police presence, confessed everything, detailing Ethan's explicit instructions to keep me confined and monitored. Since Ethan had illegally restricted my freedom for well over 24 hours, the police officially registered the case. Although my hatred for him burned intensely, he hadn't physically harmed me. No restraints, beatings, or overt abuse. Therefore, after investigation, the police determined his actions constituted unlawful detention, but did not meet the threshold for criminal charges under current law. He was sentenced to 15 days of administrative detention. When the decision was announced, a wave of profound relief washed over me. It wasn't prison, but it was something. It was exposure. It was freedom. But my ordeal wasn't quite over. Unbelievably, Ethan's wife sought me out after his detention. She stood before me, radiating cold arrogance, her expression disdainful. "Keep the baby," she stated flatly, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'll give you 500,000 yuan. In that moment, I found her both pathetic and laughable. I refused without hesitation. Her demeanor instantly turned vicious. "I'm warning you," she hissed. "Don't do anything you'll regret. I have ways to ensure you never set foot in that university again. Don't destroy your own future." I knew they likely had the means and the ruthlessness to follow through. People capable of orchestrating such a scheme wouldn't hesitate to ruin a young woman's life. But strangely, I felt no fear. The police officer's words echoed in my mind. The more you back down, the bolder criminals become. Meeting her glare head-on, I stated firmly that I was terminating the pregnancy. And if she or her husband ever harassed me again, I wouldn't hesitate to file another police report. Ethan's wife finally left, her face flushed with impotent rage. I called my aunt again, telling her simply that I'd run into some trouble and needed her support. I specifically asked her not to tell my parents. But the person who arrived in Shanghai wasn't my aunt. It was my mother. She had overheard my call to my aunt and, consumed with worry, had immediately entrusted my recovering father to my aunt's care and boarded the first train to Shanghai. When I tearfully confessed the whole sordid story, my mother didn't utter a single word of blame or reproach. Her first act was to hold me close. Her second was to take me straight to a reputable hospital to arrange the abortion procedure. Sitting beside my hospital bed afterward, my mother held my hand, tears streaming down her own face. "Sophie," she choked out, "it's Mom and Dad's fault. We weren't there for you, didn't pay enough attention. We had no idea you were going through something so terrible. University is important, yes, but you are more important. If you're scared, if you don't want to go back, we can just withdraw. We don't have to finish." I knew what a monumental sacrifice that offer represented. In our small town, everyone knew the Su family's daughter was brilliant, accepted into a top university in Shanghai. Just as that achievement had brought immense pride months ago, returning home as a dropout would bring proportionate shame. My father called too, his voice gruff but thick with emotion. "Nothing matters more than my daughter's safety, health, and happiness," he told me firmly. "Leaving you alone in Shanghai worries us sick." He even suggested my mother quit her job immediately and move to Shanghai permanently to stay with me if I chose to continue my studies there. Looking at my mother's prematurely graying hair, seeing the worry etched on her face, the tears I'd been holding back finally broke free. In that moment, surrounded by their unconditional love and support, a new resolve formed within me. I would start over. I would withdraw from the university in Shanghai. I would go back, finish my last year of high school again, study harder than ever before. And next year I would apply to universities in Beijing, fulfilling the dream I'd secretly held even before the allure of Shanghai's wealth distracted me. My parents fully supported my decision. Back in our small town, visiting my father in his hospital bed, he held my hand tightly. "Losing your way for a while isn't the terrible thing, daughter," he said gently. "What matters is waking up and finding the right path again." He was right. Those months in Shanghai, I had lost myself, seduced by a shortcut to a life I thought I wanted. Thankfully, the wake-up call, though brutal, hadn't come too late. The price had been steep, painful, but the lesson learned was invaluable. I changed my phone number. Ethan Su never contacted me again. A short while later, a post appeared on a popular online forum. It detailed the despicable actions of a wealthy man who systematically deceived and impregnated vulnerable female university students in a desperate attempt to find a bone marrow donor for his sick child. The post was carefully worded, omitting specific names but providing enough coded details about the man's profession, family situation, and location that anyone familiar with Ethan Su's circle would likely recognize him. Because the story was so shocking, the man's actions so morally bankrupt, the post went viral almost instantly. I saw comments flooding in beneath it. "This sounds terrifyingly familiar. I think this might have happened to me too." Seeing the post gain traction, spreading awareness, offered a small measure of solace. Maybe, just maybe, it would save other young women from falling into the same trap, from suffering the same devastating betrayal I had endured.